Well, they say anybody can apply for it, and, I don't think...
Okay, I'll apply for it. You think I'll get it?
Have you ever been unfairly targeted by the Department of Justice?
I have been unfairly targeted by this administration, yeah.
Have you been unfairly prosecuted by the Department of Justice?
Are those the people that are going to be in this
So the
commission?
answer is no, you haven't.
Scott Jennings appeared once again on CNN's Abby Phillip show, with Sarah Seidner filling in as host, and the discussion quickly turned intense as he went head-to-head with a panel that included Navarro. The conversation centered around another controversial issue connected to Donald Trump and his administration, and at this point it almost feels like these situations are happening so openly that they expect people to react strongly to them. In this video, we're going to break down the most heated moments from Newsnight as Scott Jennings clashes with Navarro and the rest of the panel, and I'll also share my thoughts on the debate. So, let's jump right into it and take a look at how Navarro strongly pushed back against Scott Jennings during this heated CNN exchange.
Tonight, President Trump wants to reward his friends and some of his most notorious supporters with cash, using your tax dollars. It is a deal worked out between the Justice Department and the IRS to settle Trump's lawsuits over leaks and claims of unfair treatment. A so-called anti-weaponization fund has been set up to dole out the money to pay Trump's allies who claim they were unfairly targeted by previous administrations. The amount? $1.776 billion. A symbolic nod, of course, to the adoption of the Declaration of Independence. By the way, it is possible the money that's in that fund could be tapped by January 6th rioters.
This is reimbursing people that were horribly treated. It's anti-weaponization. They've been weaponized. They've been, in some cases, imprisoned wrongly. They paid legal fees that they didn't have. They've gone bankrupt. Their lives have been destroyed. And they turn out to be right.
Now, the DOJ says anyone with a claim can file for an apology and a monetary settlement. The settlement says there are no partisan requirements. A group of 5 people will gatekeep the money, and the Attorney General will pick them. In this case, that's Todd Blanche, Trump's former personal lawyer. But the president will have the ultimate power to fire any of the gatekeepers. The DOJ claims Trump himself will not receive any payments, but he will get a formal apology. We've got a lot of folks at the table, and this is going to be hot sauce, I can tell already, with the size and the arm crossing. So we're going to start with you, Ms. Navarro. Is this a slush fund to appease his buddies, or is there something that is legitimate going on here?
And the other part you forgot to mention is that there's going to be no transparency, according to them. That they're not going, right, that they're not going to know. We, the taxpayer who are paying for this, are not going to know who this is going to. This is so bad. It is so bad. It's so bad prima facie. It's just bad on its face. But then when you put it in context, in the fact that Americans can't afford gas, Americans can't afford groceries, farmers are going bankrupt all over this country. We are in the middle of a war that's now cost $50 billion. He wants $1.5 billion for a ballroom. He wants hundreds of millions of dollars for an arch. He wants $15 million to paint the reflecting pool. And then you put on top of that now a $1.7 billion slush fund to pay his supporters and the people who feel victimized. I mean, I'm so old. I remember when most Republicans used to balk and be shocked and outraged by the idea of reparations to people who suffered slavery. But we're going to be giving money to January 6th insurrectionists. That part's okay. Yeah, it's disgusting.
Scott, is this reparations?
Look, I think there's a lot about it we don't know. I don't know who's on the committee. I don't know exactly who's going to be applying for it.
The people that Trump approves.
Well, they say anybody can apply for it, and I don't think.
Okay, I'll apply for it. You think I'll get it?
Have you ever been unfairly targeted by the Department of Justice?
I have been unfairly targeted by this administration, yeah.
Have you been unfairly prosecuted by the Department of Justice?
Are those the people that are going to be in this?
So the answer is no, you haven't. So the issue is, the question is, anyone in the history of the United States ever been unfairly targeted by the Department of Justice? Of course they have, and there ought to be, just at a top line, a way for people to seek recourse if they have been unfairly targeted. That having been said, this all started by the fact that Donald Trump had his tax returns unfairly and illegally leaked by the IRS. That's where all this started, and he was initially seeking damages for that, which he has given up. He'll receive no money, as I understand it, and now it has morphed into this idea that there have been people that have been unfairly targeted. All of this makes me a little uncomfortable because it's a lot of money and it didn't go through the U.S. Congress. That's number one. Number two, I don't want to see a president necessarily handpicking people to get payments where he could be accused of just picking people out who are political allies. But do I want a world where if you've been unfairly targeted by the federal government and it was truly unfair and you truly had something done to you that should not have been done, do I think people should be able to seek recourse for that? Absolutely I do, because I think it probably happens, and not on a partisan basis, but it probably happens all the time. And I think people ought to be able to seek some sort of damages if they've been unfairly targeted by the department or by the federal
like
government.
James Comey or Tish
Right. I mean,
James?
I guess the question is, you've got this. The overarching thing that has people really riled is the January 6 rioters, some of whom pled guilty. I was in one of the trials for the Proud Boys and for the Oath Keepers, and I watched the whole thing, and I watched it play out, and it played out as any justice, any trial would play out. And here they're pardoned, and they could seek money, should they be able to.
My personal view is anybody who committed documented violence against the government or against police officers, they've not been unfairly treated. If they ended up being convicted of a crime because of violence they committed, I got no real sympathy for them. Now, if there were people who were on the periphery that were swept up, over prosecuted, whatever, and they have a way to seek a recourse here, I have less of a problem with that. But I draw the line at violence. If you've committed political violence, if you attack the government building, if you attack police officers, I got no sympathy.
Scott, you don't have a problem with Todd Blanche handpicking 5 people who Trump can fire at any moment and giving reparations that are then not disclosed to the American people who are paying for this slush fund?
Why do you know it's not going to be disclosed?
Because because it says so.
Is it to be public in whole or in part?
I mean, kind of like, like I have an issue with the...
So wait, it is going to be public?
Public in whole or in part.
this is not a true attack.
There are parts that they could redact, is what you say, not disclose.
You mean
But
like the
it's not
Epstein files?
private from the jump.
I think that's a great example.
Scott Jennings came across incredibly arrogant during this entire debate, and Anna Navarro immediately brought up the Epstein files along with Todd Blanche appearing before Congress and acting like he hardly even understood what those files involved. So seeing Scott Jennings behave as if this new board they are putting together is somehow credible and trustworthy is becoming difficult to take seriously because, at this stage, Donald Trump's administration appears completely chaotic. What also stands out is that even Scott Jennings, while trying to make his response sound as soft as possible, still admitted that the amount of money involved and the fact that Congress was bypassed made him uncomfortable. And when someone like him is openly admitting that on live television, you can tell the situation is probably much deeper than most people realize. Corruption has been part of politics for decades, and every administration has dealt with accusations at one point or another, but what is happening right now feels much more extreme and far more open than what people are normally used to seeing. And the craziest part is that this still feels like only the beginning, because I also want to show you a former Justice Department attorney on TikTok explaining more details connected to the IRS and Donald Trump's tax returns. Honestly, this story feels so massive that it seems like it should be leading headlines across the country non-stop, all day every day. And many people believe the public should already be out in the streets demanding accountability and real answers.
Hey everybody, I have some news and it's not good. The Justice Department's settlement with Donald Trump is even worse than we knew. It turns out there was a secret part of the agreement that was hidden from us when it was announced yesterday. I just reviewed it and I am struggling to find words to tell you how catastrophic and corrupt it is. I'm Liz Oyer, the former pardon attorney for the Department of Justice. Here's the deal. Todd Blanche, in his official capacity as acting attorney general, signed this one-page document right here. It's called a release of claims. And here's what it does. It signs away all claims against Donald Trump on behalf of the United States. In other words, it says that Trump cannot be investigated, audited, or sued by the United States government in the future. That includes any government agency, the Justice Department, the IRS, etc. In effect, this will end the ongoing audits of Trump and his companies. But that's not all. It forfeits our right to collect any taxes owed by Trump and his businesses. It waives our right to try to reclaim the money he stole from taxpayers. It gives up our right to sue him for damages or to pursue really any legal recourse whatsoever against Donald Trump. And it binds the United States forever, meaning it applies even after Trump and Blanche leave office. And it's actually even worse than that because it's not limited to just Donald Trump. It also signs away all of our claims against his companies, his family members, and his associates. This is a staggering betrayal of the public trust. Even compared to other bad acts by this administration, this one stands out as especially unforgivably corrupt. Trump and Blanche are colluding together to give away our money, our rights, and our democracy. I'm sure there will be lawsuits that will argue that this agreement is illegal and unenforceable, and hopefully they will succeed. I'm not sure who will bring them or when, but I'll be keeping a close eye on it and I'll keep you informed. In the meantime, please help me sound the alarm. This is truly an emergency situation. Please share this with your friends and neighbors and make sure they understand how corrupt and unconscionable this is. Call your elected reps and demand that they take action, whatever you can think of to help defend our democracy. Thanks.
The woman's name is Liz Oyer on TikTok, and the information she explains is honestly difficult to believe. And if Democrats manage to take back Congress during the 2026 midterms, then this issue will likely become one of their biggest priorities to investigate and try to reverse. There is also a strong chance that this battle could eventually make its way to the Supreme Court. And even though many critics already believe the court has become politically compromised, you would still think there has to be some limit they would refuse to cross. Because if Donald Trump is allowed to get away with something like this, then what would stop a future Democratic president from using that same authority for themselves? And that is where this entire situation starts becoming dangerous, because it creates the impression that Trump is completely above accountability, that even his family could be shielded from consequences. And based on what was being discussed, even people connected to him could possibly fall under that same protection. Then the question becomes, how far could that really go? Would it apply to Republican allies? Would it include the January 6th rioters? Because when Scott Jennings tried arguing that the people involved in violence mostly received the punishment they deserved while others were unfairly swept up in the situation, it almost sounded like he was indirectly questioning the justice system itself. These individuals were investigated, prosecuted, and convicted through actual court trials. So if Scott Jennings believes they should not have been punished, then is he suggesting the courts got it wrong? Because that alone would be a major accusation. The reality is that many of those individuals were involved in efforts to overturn an election and disrupt the transfer of power. A large number of them served prison sentences because of their actions. Yet even after receiving pardons from Donald Trump, some openly admitted they had no regrets and still believed they did nothing wrong. And several have reportedly faced additional criminal charges after being released, which only makes the entire situation appear even worse. For critics, the idea that a president could help create what they describe as a financial safety net tied to people like this is extremely disturbing. And while Scott Jennings attempted to ease concerns by saying there is no evidence Trump himself will personally benefit from the money, many people simply do not accept that argument considering the years of financial misconduct accusations surrounding Trump. To a lot of Americans, this feels like one of the clearest examples of corruption they have ever seen from a modern administration, especially one already surrounded by non-stop controversy and investigations. There was also a time in American politics when even Republicans likely would have drawn a hard line against something this extreme, probably dating back to the Watergate era. But now, anyone inside the party who openly challenges Donald Trump risks being pushed aside completely, similar to what happened with figures like Thomas Massie. And that is why many people view this moment as deeply alarming and unlike anything they have witnessed before. But now I want to hear from you. Do you agree more with Anna Navarro and the concerns she raised during Abby Phillips' CNN panel? Or do you think Scott Jennings is right that people should wait and see who ends up running this board and controlling the money, even though critics already believe it will be filled with Trump loyalists just like Anna Navarro warned? Share your thoughts on this heated debate in the comments below, and I will catch you in the next one.